century saw political unrest. It Dawn of 20th century saw what? Political unrest. The official view was that under private management, the quality of education has deteriorated, and educational institutions acted as factories, producing political revolution. Nationalists accepted a decline in quality but accused the government of not doing anything to eradicate illiteracy. In 1902, Raleigh Commission was set up to go into conditions and prospects of universities in India and to suggest measures for improvement in their constitution and working the commissioner precluded from reporting on primary or secondary education. Based on its recommendation, the Indian University Act was passed in 1904. As per the Act, number 1, the university were to give more attention to study and research. Number 2, the number of fellows of a university and their period in office were reduced, and most fellows were to be nominated by government. Number 3, the government was to have powers to veto university senate regulations and could amend these regulations or pass regulation on its own. Number 4, the condition were to be made stricter for affiliation of private colleges. And number 5 lakh rupees were to be sanctioned per annum for 5 years for improvement of higher education and universities. Curzon justified greater control over universities in the name of quality and efficiencies, but actually sought to restrict education and to discipline the educated towards loyalty to the government. The nationalists saw in it an attempt to strengthen imperialism and to sabotage nationalist feeling. Gokhale called it a retrograde measure. Government Resolution on Education Policy 1913. In 1906, the progressive state of Baroda introduced compulsory primary education throughout its territory. National leaders urged the government to do so for British India. Gokhale made a powerful advocacy for it in the Legislative Assembly. In its 1913 resolution on education policy, the government refused to take up the in its 1913 resolution on education policy, the government refused to take up the responsibility of compulsory education, but accepted the policy of removal of illiteracy and urged provincial government to take early steps to provide free elementary education to the poorer and more backward sections. Private efforts were to be encouraged for this, and quality of secondary schools were to be improved. A university it was decided was to be established in each province, and teaching activities of university were to be encouraged. Sadler University Commission 1917 to 1919. Commission was set up to study and report on problems of Calcutta University, but its recommendation were applicable more or less to other universities also. It reviewed the entire field from school education to university education. It held the view that for the improvement of university education, improvement of secondary education was a necessary precondition. This observation was as follows: the school course could cover 12 years. Student should either enter university after an immediate stage rather than metric for a 3-year degree in university. This was done to prepare students for university stage, relieve university of a large number of below university standard students, and provide collegiate education to those not planning to go through university stages. A separate board of council, the secondary and intermediate education, should be set up for administration and control of secondary and intermediate education. There should be less rigidity in framing university regulation. There would be flexibility in framing university regulation. Number 3, a university should function as centralized, unitary, residential teaching autonomous body. rather than as a scattered affiliated college. Number 4, female education, applied scientific and technological education, teachers training including those for professional and vocational colleges should be extended. In the period from 1916 to 1921, 7 new universities set up at Mysore, Patna, Banaras, Aligarh, Dhaka, Lucknow, Osmania. In 1920, the government recommended Sadler's report to the provincial government. So, education under diarchy. So, how education was going on under diarchy? Under Chelmsford reform, education was shifted to provincial ministries, and government stopped taking direct interest in educational matters. While government grants, liberty sanctioned since 1902, were now stopped. Financial difficulties prevented any substantial expansion, but still education grew, especially under philanthropic efforts. Hartog Committee 1929, an increase in the number of schools and colleges had led to deterioration of educational standards. Hartog Committee was set up to report on development of education. Its main recommendations were as follows. Emphasis should be given to primary education, but there need to be no hasty expansion or compulsion in education. Only deserving subjects should go in for high school and intermediate stages, while every student should be diverted to vocational courses after 8th standard. Very nice. Number 3, for improvement in standard of university education, admission should be restricted. For improvement in standard of university education, admission should be restricted. Sargent Plan of Education. The Sargent was the educational advisor to the government, was worked out by Central Advisory Board of Education in 1944. It recommended number 1, pre-primary education for 3 to 6 years age group, free universal and compulsory elementary education for 6 to 11 years age group, high school education for 11 to 17 years age group for selected children, and a university course of 3 years after higher secondary. Wardha Scheme of Basic Education 1937. The Congress had organized a national conference on education in October 1937 in Wardha. In the light of the resolution passed there, Zakir Hussain Committee formulated a detailed national scheme for basic education. The main principle behind the scheme was learning through activity. It was based on Gandhi's idea, published in a series of articles in the weekly Harijan. Gandhi thought that Western education had created a gulf between the educated few and the masses. There is a gulf between the educated few and the masses, and had also made the educated elite ineffective. The scheme had the following provisions. Number 1, inclusion of the basic handicraft in the syllabus. Number 2, first 7 years of schooling to be an integral part of a free and compulsory nationwide education system, through mother tongue. Number 3, teaching to be in Hindi from class 2 to 7, in English only after class 8. Number 4, ways to be devised to establish contact with the community around school through service. Number 5, a suitable technique to be devised with a view to implementing the main idea of basic education. Educating the child through the medium of productive activity of a suitable handicraft. The system, rather than being a methodology for education, was an expression of an idea for a new life and a new society. The basic premise was that only through such a scheme could India be an independent and non-violent society. This scheme was child-centric and cooperative. There was no much development of this idea because of the start of the Second World War and the resignation of the Congress ministries October 1939. So that was the Wardha scheme of basic education, which we have discussed here, 1937. but that it was not implemented due to the Second World War and resignation of Congress ministries in 1939. So high school, that was Wardha. What Sargent plan of education, which I have discussed earlier. What was Sargent plan of education? Sargent was the educational advisor to the government. Who was Sargent? Sargent was educational advisor to the government. Educational advisor to the government, Sargent, was worked out with the Central Advisory Board of Education in 1944. Sargent recommended number 1, primary education for 3 to 6 years age group, free universal compulsory elementary education for 6 to 11 years age group, high school education for 11 to 17 years age group for selected children, and university course of 3 years after higher secondary. So Sargent, this is the first recommendation of Sargent. So high school is to be of two types: academic high school and technical and vocational high school. Two types of high school would be there: academic high school and vocational and technical high school. Number 2, adequate technical, commercial, art education. Number 3, abolition of intermediate course. Higher secondary shall be abolished. Number 4, liquidation of adult illiteracy in 20 years. Number 5, stress on teachers training. Physical education, education for the physically and mentally handicapped. The objective was to create within 40 years the same level of educational attainment as prevalent in England. Although a bold and comprehensive scheme, it proposed no methodology for implementation. It did not suggested the methodology or the way of implementing it. But although a bold and comprehensive scheme, it proposed no methodology for implementation. Also, the idea of England's achievement may not have suited India's conditions. So that's all about this video. If you find it useful, like and subscribe my YouTube channel for more such educational content. For lectures on history, polity, geography, law subjects like CRPC, CPC, BNSS, BNS, and many other law subjects, please subscribe my YouTube channel for more such beautiful, useful, and informational content.